During this lesson you will be required to fill out a worksheet. I recommend you read through the worksheet before viewing the lesson. In order to give you time to do this, you can use the pause button at the bottom of the screen. Learning outcomes. By the end of this lesson, you should be able to state where the striking point of a rough semicircular arch can be found. List the 5 important points to be remembered when setting up a centre. State the recommended joint size for rough arches. Calculate the amount of voussoirs in an arch. And calculate the accurate gauge of an arch. Rough semicircular arch. This is an arch whose intradose and extradose are half circles. This means the striking point of the arch is in the centre of the springing line, marked D on the diagram below. It is absolutely essential when setting up the centre for this or any arch that great care is taken to ensure it is level, plumb, in range, at the correct height, and well supported so that the load can be taken safely. The voussoir spacing can be marked out on the timber centre for the first ring of brickwork. The gauge for the second ring can be marked out on the voussoirs of the first ring. The V-shaped joints should be between 6 and 10 mm wide on the thin end and never bigger than 10 mm. A joint as tight as 3 mm would be acceptable, although not desirable. Before placing the voussoirs in any arch, a lead or a profile should be built either side of the arch to pull your line from. This is to ensure that the voussoirs are built in range with the rest of the wall. The arch is constructed by placing the springers first and working towards the key brick, which is positioned last. It's essential to keep adjusting the line, ensuring the voussoirs are in range. One complete ring should be built at a time before moving on to the next ring. If any of the voussoirs are built out of range with the rest of the wall, then you're going to have great difficulty trying to build the creepers in around the extradose of the arch. Calculating the amount of voussoirs. To accurately calculate the amount of voussoirs in a semicircular arch, we first must find the length of the curve of the arch. On site, this would be achieved by bending your tape around the top of the timber centre, measuring from one springing point to the other. Or in the case of the second ring, bending your tape around the top of the first ring of voussoirs. Alternatively, we can use the following formula. The circumference of a circle, how to find the circumference of a circle, is by using this formula, pi multiplied by diameter. Of course, we all know that pi is equal to 3.14. So for example, 3.14 multiplied by 0.9 meters equals 2.826 meters. This is the circumference of this circle. So for a semicircle, we just divide this by 2, which gives us 1.413. A working example. So for example, 2.826 meters. This is the circumference. So we've divided that by 2, which gave us 1.413 meters. Now, to calculate the amount of voussoirs in the arch, what we do is we divide the length of the arch, or the length of the curve, which is 1.413 meters, by 0.075. This is a brick plus a joint. This equals 18.84 bricks, but we can't put a cut brick in the arch. We also have to remember, because there should be an odd number of bricks in the arch, we always round up to the nearest odd number of bricks. So we have to have full bricks in the arch, but we also have to have an odd number. In this case, we will have 19 bricks. To get the spacing of the voussoirs to mark out on the arch centre, divide 1413 millimeters by 19. This will give us 74.3 millimeters. However, we must allow for an extra joint, because if there are 19 bricks, there will be 20 joints. Now, it would be impossible to mark out 0.3 of a millimeter. So we take the 0.3 of a millimeter from each gauge of 74.3. So for example, 0.3 mil multiplied by 19 gives us 5.7 millimeters. We'll call this 6 millimeters. This will leave us with a gauge of 74 millimeters minus the 65 millimeters gives us 9 millimeter joints, plus 6 millimeters for the last joint. When readjusted, the last brick built in the arch, the key brick, will have 9 millimeters plus a 6 millimeter joint. That's equal to 15 millimeters. We divide that by 2, we'll get 7.5 millimeter joints on either side of it. So all of the joints in the arch are going to be 9 millimeters, and the last two joints will be 7.5 mil. So you won't really notice that they're much smaller. If you wish to keep the wedge joints tighter and put in 21 bricks into the arch, you divide 1413 by 21. This would give us 67.2 mil. A little bit tight really. The joints in each ring of the arch should be approximately the same size. So ideally a joint should be between 6 and 10 millimeters on the bottom of the V, and never wider than 10 millimeters, as this would make the top of the V joint much too big. Conclusion. A semicircular arch's striking point is in the centre of its springing line. Timber supports should be set up perfectly level, plumb, in range, at the correct height, and well supported so that the load can be taken safely. The V-shaped joints should be between 6 and 10 mil wide on the thin end and never bigger than 10 millimeters. Calculating the amount of voussoirs in an arch is achieved by simple division. Working out the accurate gauge of an arch is essential and cannot be guessed.